Time now for another feedback video. It's where I go into the comment sections of one of my videos and I read over what you all have to say about a particular topic. This one is revolved around Dan Houser leaving Rockstar Games. We'll get to your comments in just a minute, but first, Tez, aka FunNW2, tweeted this out. Grand Theft Auto 5 has sold over 120 million units worldwide. Red Dead Redemption 2 has sold over 29 million units. Grand Theft Auto Online's had its best quarter ever and is expected to set a new record. So bear in mind, we go by the numbers. Grand Theft Auto 6 is over 6 years old, going on 7 years old. And it's been on last gen, current gen, PC. And Red Dead Redemption 2 is only over a year old. And it's only been on Xbox One, PS4, PC, and Stadia. And to be honest, as most of us are fully aware of, Red Dead Redemption is never going to be as big as the Grand Theft Auto franchise. Still quite impressive numbers from Rockstar. Which segues into the topic of this video. Feedback from all of you, my awesome viewers, subscribers, fans, members. Thank you so much for watching the content as well as liking the streams and videos. DeBeast Games says this is not good at all. I'm very scared about Rockstar's future. Just like most of us at the moment, we're very cautious about the future IPs that will be coming out for Rockstar down the road. Next, let's go to Archangel. I think there is definitely a possibility. Rockstar games are going to become terrible now with Dan leaving. There's a possibility. Story-wise, they could be very terrible, I think, but there is a possibility that they could stay the same. Stories could still be good, but there's also not good. When you have a lead man leaving, that's definitely not good. Just like with Halo, Star Wars, whenever somebody else comes in, they always ruin things. This could be the start of microtransactions going even more crazy. I'm getting a greed vibe, becoming more about the money that they make, unfortunately. Okay, so I kind of sort of disagree about the microtransactions. I think that's already a thing. Case in point, shark cards in Grand Theft Auto Online, gold bars in Red Dead Online. What I foresee happening is Rockstar pumping out more games, having more of a rotation similar to Ubisoft. So from a money-making point of view, I see that's the route that Take-Two wants Rockstar to make. And it could have a very negative effect on the quality of Rockstar games going forward. Foxhound, I really think this is going to be the end of story mode in any of the future games, and a lower quality story, sad to see a living legend go. And that's something that a lot of people are concerned about. How is this going to affect the story aspect of Rockstar games going forward? Because, as some of you may have noticed, they do like to focus a lot on their online modes. Case in point, while Grand Theft Auto 5 had a great story to it, originally there were supposed to also be story DLCs for Grand Theft Auto 5, but with the success of Grand Theft Auto Online, they scrapped and ultimately repurposed the whatever they came up with for those DLCs into Grand Theft Auto Online DLCs. And the same thing has happened with Red Dead Online, whereas that's their focus, is making content for Red Dead Online. And even though the story in the world of Red Dead Redemption 2 is vast and, 50 to 60 hours worth of gameplay easily, a lot, but going forward, you can see the direction that Rockstar intends to continue going, and this could continue to get worse in a future post Dan Houser, where the focus is going to be more and more about the online game and less when it comes to the story itself. Let's see, Darren Fenton, I really hope it's not him leaving due to political correctness. I don't think it has anything to do with political correctness, because for the most part, these corporations that act like they're all about political correctness are basically just virtue signaling. And at the end of the day, the only thing they really care about is money. And they know the fan base for Grand Theft Auto. They know the fan base for Red Dead. And they know that most of the fans of both franchises aren't like that. So I think it simply comes down to, once again, money. Take-Two's been slowly probably pushing Dan Houser out of the way, maybe Sam as well, because they really want Rockstar to start putting out more games. To hell with the quality. It's all about the quantity, baby. Let's get as many games out as possible. So that's the direction I feel like they're going. And that could be a possibility why Dan Houser is leaving. Or maybe he's just ready to move on to some other stuff. I mean, he's written some pretty great games over the past few years, decades. And, sometimes you want to move on to other things. And maybe he just feels like the stories he's written, he's wanting to try something else. Maybe a novel or TV shows or movies. But we'll see. Let's see. SDG Swamp Donkey. Okay, Swamp Donkey. I know it's you. Swamp Donkey says, I'll be curious if this has any impact, and if so, what? Let's see. Jacob responds, I doubt he had much to do with the games anyways. He was already rich as shit. I doubt he had any passion in the past. Well, I disagree with that, Jacob. I wholeheartedly do. Look, obviously, the Housers are wealthy. They're the founders of Rockstar Games. They've had quite a few successful games in their time. But I do think that Dan Houser was passionate about the stories he and his writing team created and crafted. You can tell. You can always see the difference between a TV show, a movie that has a really good written story and plot and characters, and ones that are half-ass. And say what you will about the state of Rockstar Games right now going forward, and them obviously focusing on microtransactions and the online elements, just like a lot of other games out there. One thing you can't take away from Rockstar to this point is the single-player story has been great. As I've mentioned, a lot of those stories were fantastic. Even during the 3D era, whenever, the gameplay wasn't the best and nostalgia kind of gets the better of us, there still was good stories there and lots of humor and whatnot. So that's one thing I think you can't take away from Dan Houser. I think that he was a very passionate writer and still is. And I think going forward, hopefully we'll see him do other projects post-Rockstar. Let's see. Chris Younggun, I prefer Take-Two being out of the picture instead. Kyle says, I think Rockstar and Hangar 13 need to go independent from Take-Two like Bungie did with Activision. I don't know how feasible that would be, though. Let's see. Chris responds, if they get a nice chunk of that $6-7 billion, it might be feasible. Yeah, I never really understood why, as big of a company as Rockstar has been, thanks to the success of GTA, why they had to go under Take-Two. Because I think that they could have stood on their own as an independent, well, a big giant AAA publisher, developer, where they've even bought other developers. The team behind LA Noire, for example. But I always felt like this relationship with Take-Two and Rockstar may have started off as a happy marriage, but Take-Two has become more and more controlling as the years have passed on, and that's what I see happening right now. And it's not going to end well for Take-Two either. It's not going to end well for Rockstar Games, just like some of you pointed out with Activision, and of course with what's happening with Blizzard. Yeah, so this influence rarely ends well for any developer that's under the influence of a publisher similar to Take-Two. Next, let's go to Sedan. This makes me pretty sad. So many of my beloved franchises have fallen apart over time, with developers losing Old Town and becoming less and less focused on what made them great. Rockstar has managed to be trendy and modern with their online experience, while also maintaining the traditional fantastic single-player experience that has built their brand. From Bethesda's fall from grace to Fallout 76, to the wonderful cluster F that is Battlefield 5, to even the unsteady Mafia 3, to the complete silence of Hangar 13 for quite a while now, I'm starting to wonder what games I have left to look forward to. So many of the big AAA studios I've used to love seem to be losing their touch. I hope Rockstar can dodge this trend and keep going strong as we go forward. And maybe Red Dead Redemption 2's great story is still indicative of that, what we can expect, but I'm not exactly hopeful. Gaming companies, and not just publishers anymore, but developers too, seem to be increasingly more interested in making every penny possible, rather than making an amazing game that makes money just by selling copies. Example, San Andreas, good example. Studios need management to succeed with vision and determination. If this is the beginning of a possible Rockstar decline, at least in terms of single player, I hope we can still get Grand Theft Auto 6 and maybe a couple other amazing titles before the spark burns out, and maybe even sooner rather than later. And that's another thing that you have to consider is the very real possibility that even though Dan Houser is walking away in officially a month from now, I think a month from now, but nope, just about a month, he's probably already involved to some degree with the writing of the script for Grand Theft Auto 6, the characters, the plot, and all that stuff, and possibly even scripts for future games they have in the works, like Bully 2, which may or may never happen, and possibly even outlines for future Red Dead. I mean, it's possible we may still see Dan Houser's influence on the stories of future Rockstar games going forward, from Grand Theft Auto 6, to who knows how much further down the road Rockstar goes with a world post Dan Houser. DJ Troway, every loss will be a gain. They may need someone new and fresh to keep things spicy. Well, there is always the hope and possibility that Sam Houser and the heads of Rockstar know that they need to have good writers on board for their future projects, even if Dan Houser has a huge part to play, possibly in Grand Theft Auto 6. But beyond that, yeah, they need to bring in some good writers. And, there's still the possibility that in a post-Dan Houser era, we may yet to see some, great story, great plots, great characters going forward with future Rockstar games. But I think that there will always be part of Rockstar that will be changed because of the departure of Dan Houser. Let's see, Noah, I'm so sad that this has happened. Really ruined my mood after seeing it on my way home from school. I also fear Take-Two will turn Rockstar into Ubisoft, but I doubt it will happen. Rockstar already makes way more than enough money to stand up against Take-Two. Will be awful, however, more and more important people kept quitting, but I wish Dan Houser all the best. A major fan of his writing, his franchise, and his company. I prefer to wait 8 years for a masterpiece than wait 1 year for a poorly optimized, boring mess, which all the Ubisoft titles are. The only ones I have a bit of fun with is Odyssey now, and I've played so much Red Dead Redemption 2 and The Witcher, they have nothing else to play. Even a AA studio that makes Plague Tale Innocence makes better, more polished games than AAA studios like Ubisoft because they don't rush their products and are passionate about making good things, just like Rockstar, but with much smaller budget. Very good points, Noah. Let's move forward now with, Jason. The beginning of the end for Rockstar. I certainly hope it's not the end for Rockstar. The fear seems to be there. I mean, maybe it's just the end of an era, and with every end comes a new beginning. So that's very possible, but I guess we're just going to be very mindful about, future projects made by Rockstar going forward post Dan Houser. And like I said, I still feel convinced that he will have some part to play in the writing and the story and the characters of Grand Theft Auto 6. ESP, Dan was the writer of every GTA since GTA London. I don't know the vibes you're getting from this, but for me it feels like Dan completed the Grand Theft Auto 6 story and is now being let go. Like Take-Two had some hold on him. Finish GTA 6 story and then you'll be gone. At least that's what your gut tells you. Well, it's not that simple, ESP. See, Dan Houser wasn't just a writer. He was the vice president. He was a co-founder of Rockstar Games. He had position and influence within the company along with his brother Sam. And I don't think that's the way it went down. I mean, obviously we may never know the truth unless later on Dan, pulls out a tell-all book. Maybe one day, maybe not. Probably no time soon. But what it comes down to is possibly him just ready to move on with his life. I mean, he's in his 40s, and maybe he feels like he's written the stories he wants to write for Rockstar, or maybe he's feeling the push of Take-Two and he doesn't like it, and maybe he just wanted no part of Rockstar going forward with what Take-Two wants Rockstar to do, which is pretty obvious, pumping out more games on a regular basis. Whiskey. Meet the new Rockstar, rebranded as EA Rockstar. Whiskey also made this point, so let's read this really quick. It was on another one of my videos. I'm really worried about the direction Rockstar will go now that Dan Houser's gone. That pretty much leaves the question of quality up in the air once next gen comes out. It's going to be hard to fill the shoes of one of the greatest game writers in history and provide the same level of quality we're used to in future Rockstar titles. And this is something that a lot of us are very concerned about going forward with future Rockstar games. Possibly not with Grand Theft Auto 6, but maybe with Grand Theft Auto 7 or Red Dead Redemption 3 or Bully 2, if that hasn't already been written by Dan Houser already, or whatever else Rockstar has planned going forward post Dan Houser. Next, we go to one of my oldest subscribers, Adam Bennett. He's been around since, I think we had less than 100 subscribers nearly 6 years ago. Adam, if Grand Theft Auto 7 comes out only 3 or 4 years after Grand Theft Auto 6, we know something's up. Exactly, Adam. And that's a major concern a lot of us have. Now, look, a lot of us would like, in an ideal situation, for us to get more Grand Theft Auto games and more Red Dead games and Bully games on a more regular basis. Maybe not every 2 years, but maybe every 3 or 4 years, maybe in that ballpark. But if it takes a hit on the quality of the game, then I'd rather wait, because each game is almost a masterpiece when it comes to the story aspect of Rockstar games. But at the same time, there is also the gamer in me that after 2 or 3 years of playing Grand Theft Auto 5, I'm ready to move on to Grand Theft Auto 6. And the same thing will happen in Grand Theft Auto 6 after 2 or 3 years of playing Grand Theft Auto 6. I think a lot of you will be ready to move on to Grand Theft Auto 7. So it is understandable from that point of view, but at the same time, quality over quantity. See, Major Dutch, around the time Leslie left, I was pretty sure the biggest creative mind left too, because it was around the first Heist came out. After that, they only released the crappy DLCs for online. But then they came out with Red Dead Redemption 2, which is one of their biggest single-player games yet. But can you make the argument it was already in development back then? They're going to be fine. It's Rockstar. Well, Major Dutch, there is a difference between story mode and online. I do not think Dan Houser had anything to do with the online DLCs or the online stories. I mean, case in point, you can go and watch the cutscenes for Casino Heists or the Casino update, both those updates that came out last year for GTA. And you can tell that the writing is not as good as Dan Houser's writing. And at the end, that was one of my cons, was revolved around the story itself in the Casino update and the Casino Heist as well, because they do technically tie together. I mean, it's okay. It's not terrible writing. I've seen way worse, but it's still not up to that same level as Dan Houser. So I think Dan Houser, his focus was specifically on single player. And Leslie Benzies, to his credit, the Benz did his part to make, from the development aspect of games all the way up to Grand Theft Auto 5, fantastic. But these are two different departments. Two great men, each bringing their own part to the table. And so, yeah, I mean, there was a creative aspect of Benz that's no longer at Rockstar, and that's from the development point of view. But what you have with Dan Houser's departure is the writing, the stories, the characters, the plots, all that stuff that we love, from these games that we enjoy playing. Let's see, Michael Washington, let's see, does this mean that all the next games will be online? Yeah, see, there is a fear that, like we talked about a moment ago, that maybe Take-Two is secretly pushing Rockstar to focus more on online, and they're doing that already, though. I mean, what more do you want? Every little penny from us? Oh, that's right. I think they mentioned something about that in some interviews a while back. Right, Strauss? But yeah, I fear that even though I think there's always going to be like a story aspect to Grand Theft Auto games going forward, or let's just say Rockstar games going forward, there is a very real possibility that we will notice the stories not as long. Say, whereas Red Dead Redemption 2, you could say, 50, 60 hours right there? Maybe they cut it down to 20 hours. So you could see maybe not Grand Theft Auto 6, but maybe Grand Theft Auto 7, maybe Red Dead 3, or Red Dead, 4 now, or 5? I don't know which one it is anymore. But future IPs for Rockstar Games, while they focus more on the online aspects and the microtransactions, we may start to see the story aspect of these games decrease ever slightly from, average of 50 hours to 30 hours to 20 hours and less than 20 hours. So that's something we definitely need to keep an eye on going forward. Kyle, I was shocked when I saw this yesterday. It was so sudden. Dan Houser has helped create some of the best characters and stories I've ever experienced. So it was very, very sad to see him go. But fortunately, Sam is still around. I'm really nervous about the future of Rockstar now. Honestly, fuck Take-Two. They would rather have online-focused microtransactions filled with games rather than the amazing single-player-focused games Rockstar's always been heralded for. I might be in the minority, but I truly believe that Rockstar and 2K Czech, Hangar 13, needs to leave Take-Two like Bungie left Activision. You're not the only one that feels that way, Kyle. Let's see, Take-Two will never give up their cash cow, though. I could be wrong, just my thoughts. And I think that's part of the problem. I feel like even if the Housers wanted to separate, decouple from Take-Two, it's never going to happen because Take-Two has their claws so deep and entrenched into Rockstar. Maybe when Rockstar was first starting off after DMA, because DMA became Rockstar, obviously there was a struggle before Rockstar became a success with GTA 3. I'm sure Take-Two helped them there. And obviously, this relationship formed between these two companies. And even though Rockstar is one of the biggest developers in the world, in a weird way, they still have this parent company lingering over them, Take-Two, that profits off of them. And I'd say it's easy to say that Rockstar is their most profitable development team, studio in the world. They have the 2K. They have a few other studios, including Hangar 13, which is rumored to be working on Mafia 4 and possibly even a remaster of Mafia 2. I think the 2K Czech team is behind that. So they're part of Hangar 13 as well now. But no doubt, Rockstar is the cash cow. It's the big one. Even though there is some sports games that are sold under Take-Two, like, for example, WWE, we saw well that turned out, even though that's sports. And NBA now is getting worse and worse, and the latest one had gambling in it. Next, let's go to Hunt. Hello, Hunt. Bully 2 has to take place in the past, man. It would be lame if they said it in modern times, but I feel that Bully is great enough to not even need a sequel. They could have made San Andreas 2. A lot of us Bully fans would very much love a sequel. Maybe a remake of Bully. That would be cool. It's the same story, same characters and whatnot, but obviously it looks way better. Maybe they add more to it. I do feel like that even though there is compelling evidence out there that Bully actually exists in the Grand Theft Auto verse, there's stuff out there that points to that. I do like Bully existing in its own bubble universe. And I do like the time period it's in, It's not the past, it's just its own world. And even though it may have some Easter eggs from GTA, maybe they'll pepper in some Red Dead Easter eggs, just like they peppered in Bully Easter eggs into Red Dead Redemption 2. Maybe it's just Easter eggs for the sake of Easter eggs, and it doesn't really mean anything at all, because I don't think Red Dead or GTA are actually connected. But I would love to have eventually a Bully 2. And maybe, just maybe, there's a nice script that Dan Houser has written, and it's just waiting for that game to eventually be made. And maybe they're working on it as well as Grand Theft Auto 6 right now. That was one of the rumors. And I would very much be excited for a Bully 2, especially if you have Dan Houser once again scripting it. I have faith in Dan Houser. Despite the fact that he's leaving Rockstar Games, his legacy will most likely live on in future games that have already been written script-wise. Let's see how. Let's see, dude, jump on the ACG podcast this week. Well, Carrick has to ask me. I can't just barge in to the former podcast that I used to be part of and one of the founding co-hosts of without an invitation, Hal. But like I told Carrick and Silver, that if they ever want me back on the podcast, all they have to do is ask, and I'll be there. So, and I've mentioned this to a few ACG podcast fans out there that have inquired over the past year. All they have to do is ask, and I would be happy to come in. Let's see, Red Dead, your mom. Oh no, Red Dead Redemption 3 might not come out now. Well, technically you're wrong because Red Dead Redemption 2 is Red Dead 3. It's confusing. Red Dead Revolver, Red Dead Redemption, Red Dead Redemption 2. I know what you meant. Red Dead Redemption 3 or whatever the hell they call it. And that's the one I'm really concerned about. Not necessarily Grand Theft Auto 6, because I feel like, as we've mentioned at least once or twice, like, that's going to have Dan Houser all over it, I think, story-wise and character-wise. It's beyond that I'm concerned about with what are they going to do with a future Red Dead game? And are they even planning a future Red Dead game? Maybe Take-Two is going to be like, you know what? Red Dead obviously doesn't sell as many copies as GTA. We just want you to focus on GTA, which I think would be dumb because I like studios being able to focus on different games. Like CD Projekt Red, they're known for Witcher, and right now they're working on a new game, Cyberpunk 2077, which a lot of people are excited about. So I like it when a really good development studio focuses on more than just one IP. And I hope that Rockstar doesn't just become GTA Studios. And I hope they continue putting out different IPs. That's why a lot of us would like to see something different, like a Bully 2. I know some of you want Table Tennis 2 instead, but y'all are just crazy. Let's see, Johnny. Let's see, Phil Spencer. Hey, Dan, let's chat. I'll get you to run the initiative. Okay, Johnny. Let's see, Armorell. Let's see, I think you'll be waiting about 12 years before we can play a Rockstar game that Dan Houser had zero part in making. Now, like we've been saying, that is a very real possibility because a lot of these scripts or ideas for future games that Rockstar may or may not make have probably already been at the very least written up, outlines made, the basic first drafts assembled. Not the entire story, not all the characters fleshed out or the plot and whatnot or the world. But I think we will see Dan's influence beyond Red Dead Redemption 2 and perhaps even beyond Grand Theft Auto 6. At least I hope so. Let's see, Heartless Toaster. Hey, Heartless. Nice thumbnail. Well, thank you. I like it so much, I'm going to black and white it and use it as this thumbnail and just put feedback on it. Next, let's go to Will. If his writing can't fix the bugs, not important. He hasn't been around for a year. There's been a lot of talented people out there that can fill the void, and hopefully he starts another project, so at it like a win-win instead of a funeral. I wasn't looking at it as a funeral. I did wish him the best in future projects, and I hope that he will continue writing in other capacities will. But it is important. Story and characters and plot is important to a video game, and it's important to TV shows. It's important to movies. It's important to books. It's important to plays. It's important. And if you don't have good characters, you don't have good plot, you don't have a good arc or climax or stories or resolutions, then what's the point? What's the point in playing Red Dead Redemption 2 or Grand Theft Auto 5? You might as well go play a Battle Royale. There's no story there for Apex or Fortnite or what's the other one? PUBG. I mean, I'm sure there's some loose story, but not to the degree of Rockstar games where, up until, Grand Theft Auto Online, the main focus has been the story. And yes, bugs are important, and the bugs need to be fixed. All the issues need to be resolved in the game. But that wasn't Dan Houser's department. That was a completely different department. And I would say that what Dan Houser brought to the table over the past several years, decade plus, was very important. Very important indeed. Let's see, Noob. Hello, Noob. Let's see, hopefully it's not too big of an impact. Michael, Unswan, Rupert, Humphreys, Laszlo are all still there, main writers. So yeah, I mean, as long as Laszlo and Rupert and Michael and maybe bring on, some other people that are really good writers, quality, even if they're willing to shell out a few bucks for them. Yeah, they could go forward because they're familiar with the material, with the content, with the worlds. So there is a very real possibility that, the games won't take too bad of a hit story-wise. And it's always possible that if they do hit a snag going forward with, say, Red Dead Redemption 3 or Grand Theft Auto 7 or whatever, that they could simply just have Dan Houser come in under contract to help out with the script, story, characters, etc. So just because he's no longer going to be part of Rockstar Games, he's stepping away, doesn't mean he can't always be brought back in, especially if he manages to part Rockstar Games under good terms with his brother Sam as well as Take-Two. So we'll see. Let's see. Paul. Hello, Paul. I'm wondering just exactly how much this will impact Red Dead Online. All right, so I did reply to Paul, and I'll personally reply once again via the video. And it's the same point that I brought up a moment ago. Dan Houser, I don't think, has anything to do with the online aspects or stories for Grand Theft Auto Online or Red Dead Online. I think those are different teams of writers. And maybe those writers are being groomed to eventually, become better and, get up at the big table with the big boys. I don't know. Big girls. I didn't mean it that way. The big peoples, the big writers. I'm digging that hole for myself. But anyways, so yeah, I don't think Dan Houser had anything to do with the DLC stories for Grand Theft Auto Online or the DLC stories for Red Dead Online. I could be wrong about that. Maybe he had some influence, but nowhere near as much as, say, the story aspects of the Rockstar games. I see 6, no more pre-orders from you. Yeah, most of the time I am very, very hesitant to pre-order any game because so many times they turn out to be disappointments. But up until now, it was almost always a pre-order. Whether it was all the way back to, I don't know, did I pre-order Grand Theft Auto 3? Because I know I was excited about Grand Theft Auto 3 because I love the top-downs, the original on the PlayStation, the OG PlayStation when I was a kid back in the 90s, and GTA 2 on PC. So I was really excited about the idea of a 3D-based GTA game. I know I purchased it in October 2001. I don't know if I pre-ordered it, though, but I love that game. And I think that I probably pre-ordered Vice City, San Andreas. I did play Liberty City Stories. I eventually got to play Chinatown Wars. I pre-ordered Grand Theft Auto 4. I also purchased the story DLCs for Grand Theft Auto 4, Lost and Damned, Ballad of Gay Tony. I definitely pre-ordered Red Dead Redemption because A, Rockstar Games. B, I know that I had a unique, the Warhorse back then was a pre-order, and I think one of the outfits where Marston had he had like a patch over his eye. It was like the Deadeye outfit or something, or I forgot what it was called, the exact name of that unique outfit, but I think that was pre-order content, and I know I had that from the very beginning, and I still have that same copy of that game from nearly 10 years ago, just backwards compatible from 360 to Xbox One. I don't know if I pre-ordered Bully, though, but I played the hell out of Bully as well. So going forward, yeah, I'm going to be very cautious about pre-ordering future Rockstar games as well. It's just going to... We'll have to wait and see on Grand Theft Auto 6. Let's see. Brian. Dan Houser is legend in video game industry. Awesome video, GB. Thank you very much, Brian. Appreciate that as always. Always interesting to read over what you all have to say, which is why I enjoy this feedback series that we do over a variety of games. We did 2 feedback videos this week. Usually I try to, spread it out a little bit more than this, but we had some important stuff transpire. And like I said, even if I don't directly reply to your comments, I always read them. Even if I disagree with you, you have a right to your opinion just like I do. And I always try to encourage us to have a dialogue, to be civil to one another, even when we're disagreeing. And whenever I see some of you being dicks to each other, sometimes I will jump in and say, hey, let's try to be civil with each other. This is not Twitter. Okay, there's some good people on Twitter. 911 followers. They're all good over on my Twitter page. But in all seriousness, I do appreciate you all, as always, taking the time to leave your comments on my videos and being part of the live streams. And for all the content streams you enjoy, likes are always extremely appreciated. And thank you so much to all of you subscribed that are part of the GeauxBurns Nation. And you're always welcome to join our various communities on Twitter, Facebook, as well as our fantastic, awesome Discord community. And if you have any further thoughts, views, and opinions about Rockstar games going forward in this post-Dan Houser era, your thoughts, your views, and opinions about that, as always, welcome below in the comments section.